The presents were unwrapped, the shredded paper thrown away, and of course the new itchy sweater was put on, which meant it was time to go to Georgia to meet the rest of the family for Christmas dinner. We piled in the car, complete with our Christmas dinner offerings, because you can't show up to family Christmas dinner without bringing your assigned dishes. "What dish are you looking forward to most?" Mom asked. My sister Laura exclaimed, "Grandma potatoes. Grandma's famous for those." I said, "Crescent rolls." I was a picky eater, but I loved crescent rolls, the fluffy, buttery goodness. Even though they are the jack-in-the-box of foods, it always freaks me out when you peel the container to open it. You never know when it's going to pop. "Oh," my mom said, "I'm not sure anyone's doing crescent rolls this year. I think Aunt Dana was going to do banana and pumpkin bread." "What kind of foolishness is that, Mother? It's not Christmas dinner without crescent rolls. Christmas is officially ruined." It was a big day. The bridegroom was coming, and there was going to be a wedding. The bridesmaids had to go out to meet him so they could get into the banquet. I bet they had crescent rolls at that banquet. But like my mother, some were foolish and left the most important thing at home. No, not crescent rolls this time, but oil for their lamp. If you don't have oil for your lamp, how will it shine? How will you see the bridegroom when he comes? You can't rely on someone else. You have to bring what you need. You have to keep your lamp trimmed and burning lest you miss love's coming. "Where love is, there is God also" is a short story by Leo Tolstoy about a man named Martin who was a cobbler in a little Russian town. He had worked on everyone's shoes in the town, so when he looked out of his basement workroom window that was at street level, he could recognize everyone just from their shoes. Though Martin had experienced much loss in his life and at times felt angry at God for being alone, he had always considered himself a good man. In his old age, though, Martin began to think about his soul as he never had before. He began to read the Bible each night, and one night he read the story about a Pharisee who didn't really welcome Jesus into his home. And then he read a passage from Luke. "If someone slaps you on the cheek, turn the other also. If someone takes your coat, don't withhold your shirt. Give to everyone who asks you, and if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do unto you." That night, Martin was awakened by someone calling his name. "Martin, Martin, who's there?" he called. "Martin, look tomorrow on the street, for I am coming." So when Martin woke the next day, filled with the excitement of a child on Christmas morning, the excitement of a couple on their wedding day, Martin prepared his tea and a meal ready to serve Jesus, who promised to visit. The bridegroom was coming, and the bridesmaids were excited. They couldn't wait to meet him, but only some of them thought to bring enough oil for their light. What's the use of waiting for him if you can't see him and he can't see us? Only half of them thought to have oil. I think Christmas can be like that. We can get so excited for its arrival that we rush out the door to meet it and we forget the oil for our lights. We're so focused on welcoming Christmas, welcoming our guests who come to dinner, though probably not this year, that we can't see anything else. Our light just simply doesn't shine bright enough. I wasn't excited about Christmas dinner. I didn't like pumpkin or banana bread. I didn't even like Grandma's potatoes. I have a very picky palate when it comes to potatoes. I like roasted potatoes that are small and crunchy, and I like French fries. I don't like baked potatoes. I don't like mashed potatoes. That's more information than you wanted, but I shared it anyway with you. I didn't like green bean casserole or cranberry sauce or anything of the sort. There was a horrifying lack of plain red Jell-O with no fruit in it and crescent rolls. Talk about leaving your oil at home. I was expecting crescent rolls and was just disappointed that I didn't see them. Martin prepared to meet his expected visitor by making a pot of buckwheat porridge and cabbage soup, and he let it cook so he could work while the food was preparing. He brewed a whole pot of tea for the day and sat on his cobbler's bench to begin his work and watched the parade of boots pass by his window. The day wore on and nobody special passed by. In the early afternoon, he noticed the worn, patched shoes of Stepanich, an old, broken-down soldier renting a room from a wealthy businessman. To pay the rent, Stepanich needed to work. That day, he was supposed to clear the walks in front of his landlord's business, but Stepanich was too frail to lift the heavy and wet snow. Martin wished that he would just move on, for he was afraid that Stepanich might obstruct his view and he would not see the Lord when he passed. Finally, it occurred to Martin that Stepanich might be cold and hungry, so he tapped on the window and beckoned him to come in. Martin was about to take a break from his own work and have a nice cup of tea, so he decided to ask Stepanich to come inside and warm himself and share that cup with him. Martin thought he could spare one cup for the cold Stepanich. He had made a whole pot after all. There would still be enough for Jesus when he came. Martin kept watching the window, and Stepanich kept drinking more tea. Before long, the pot was empty, and Martin was sad he had no tea to offer Christ when he came. Stepanich rose to leave and thanked Martin for the comfort to his body and soul. Martin gave him a second overcoat to keep the old soldier warm and again took his place at the cobbler's bench to work as he watched for the feet of Jesus. But tattered woolen stockings and peasant-made shoes paused in front of Martin's basement window. Martin didn't recognize the shoe, so it must be a stranger in town, he thought. There was a woman who wore shabby summer clothes in the cold winter. A tiny baby was in her arms. Martin watched as she held the baby close, rewrapping a ragged blanket around him. He rose from his bench and once again climbed his basement stairs to invite the stranger woman in from the cold. Martin brought her a steaming bowl of cabbage soup and some bread he had prepared for his dinner with Jesus. He asked the woman if she had any warmer clothing, but the woman had pawned them earlier in the day to buy food. Martin went to the truck at the back of his shop and rummaged for a moment. He brought an old woolen cloak to her and a blanket to wrap the baby. As she rose to leave after finishing Martin's dinner, Martin pressed a few coins into her hand. Martin couldn't help but wonder if he had just wasted the meal he had prepared for Jesus. How could he welcome the Savior, the Lord, without tea, without food? Dismayed, Martin again sat at his bench and watched the window, hoping Jesus would come. Just before sunset, an old woman stopped in front of his window. She carried a basket of apples in one hand and a sack of wood chips for the fire in another. She leaned against the building to rest for a moment, and Martin saw a boy in tattered clothes come out of nowhere and grab an apple from the basket. The woman grabbed the boy, threatening to call the police as the boy struggled to get away. Martin went out and implored the woman to let the boy go and forgive him. He even offered to buy the apple for the boy. The old woman couldn't believe he would reward the boy's crime. Martin explained the need for forgiveness and how God forgives each one of us despite our sins and even rewards us with heaven. The boy and the old woman nodded thoughtfully and walked off with the boy carrying the old woman's load for her. Martin watched them leave, but really was hoping to see his special visitor appear in view. Martin slowly walked back down to his workshop. But the light outside had now faded, and Martin could no longer see any shoes pass by. The day was over, and Christ had not come. Had Martin somehow missed him? A little disappointed, Martin went to read his Bible when he heard a voice again. "Martin, Martin, did you not recognize me?" "Who?" exclaimed Martin. "Me," repeated the voice. "It was I." And the old weary soldier stepped forth from the dark corner. He smiled, and like a little cloud faded away and soon vanished. "And it was I," said the voice. And from the dark corner stepped forth the woman with her child. The woman smiled, the child laughed, and they too vanished. "And it was I," continued the voice. Both the old woman and the boy with the apple stepped forward. Both smiled and vanished. Martin's soul rejoiced. He crossed himself. He put on his spectacles and began to read the Gospels wherever it happened to open. And he turned the page, and on the upper part of the page he read, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. For as much as you've done for the least of my brothers and sisters, you have done unto me." Christ says in the parable that we must keep watch. We need to keep our lamps trimmed and burning. What does that mean? I think it means to always be on the lookout for Christ, because God comes to us in many ways. An old weary soldier, a woman and her child, a family who just lost their house in a fire, a single mom who has no means to provide Christmas for her children, a friend who has just suffered a loss, the hungry lining up at food pantry doors who never imagined to find themselves there. More and more people are now food insecure, wondering where their next meal will come from, relying on food pantries for their dinner, relying on the generosity of strangers. Jesus comes to us in each child and adult who is hungry today. If we aren't tending our own light, if we don't keep our lamps trimmed and burning and instead live in the dark, we may miss a neighbor in need. We may miss an opportunity to serve, to love, and to help, and to welcome Christ. I was in the darkness of my own despair as we gathered to say the prayer for Christmas dinner. I still didn't see that basket of lightly golden, fluffy, crescenty goodness. No one else seemed to mind, though. Everyone was talking about how good everything looked, thanked everyone for their offerings, welcoming everything onto their plate. My plate was pretty bare. I put a whole turkey leg on it and some green peas. I didn't really want the green peas, but it was a preemptive strike. If I at least got a few vegetables, Mom wouldn't make a big deal out of trying to put some more on my plate later because I needed a vegetable. So you got to be thinking about these things with your parents, children. That's a lesson for you for Christmas dinner, free of charge for you. Everyone started eating, and I gnawed on my turkey leg, medieval fair style, but everyone was talking about this one dish, asking why I didn't have one, because it was all of my favorites. "I think I know crescent rolls when I see them," I said. "Apparently you don't," said my dad, and he put this thing in front of me. The top looked like a star with the filling in the center. So I tried it. Yep, the container, the star part, was that definitely crescenty goodness, and the filling was melted cheese and bacon, but mostly bacon. New Christmas favorite, bacon and cheese crescent rolls. Could it get any better? And to think I almost missed it because my eyes weren't open. I was in the dark. Sometimes we expect the bridegroom, Christ, Christmas, to come in a certain way, and then we aren't ready to receive it when it comes in a different way. Martin knew the bridegroom was coming, but in all his excitement, he still remembered to be a light. He still remembered to love those in need. He didn't let himself get distracted by what he thought he needed to do, because when a need came, he met that need. It would have been easy to ignore the strange and worn out shoes by his window and just focus on Christ. But when we forget the needs of those around us, we miss the coming of Christ. It is the same with Christmas. In the midst of the excitement of Christmas coming, all the errands, the shopping, the baking, the cards, if we forget the needs of those around us, we miss the coming of Christ. We miss Christmas. Martin could have missed the coming of Christ, but he was filled with what gives us the brightest of lights, love. He welcomed Jesus in from the cold, gave him tea, fed him, gave him a cloak, and showed compassion, because what he did for those in need, he did for Jesus. And Martin realized something. Where there is love, there is God also. Always. It's easy to anticipate Christmas and prepare for so much, for we're afraid to miss out on opportunities. But we can prepare so much for and all these other things that we may miss out on the opportunities to love. And it's in those missed moments that we really miss Christmas. This year, more people than in recent memory need help, and they need food. Next week, we're going to have a Christmas drive-thru, and you'll have the opportunity to bring food for the food pantry and bring items for the giving tree. Here's the opportunity to share the love of God with those who need it most. Let's not miss the moment to provide a meal for our neighbors, to provide it for Jesus himself. Jesus, after all, promises to provide a meal for us. The meal we are about to share together at this table is given by Christ for you. This is Christmas dinner because in this meal, Christ comes to us. Christ comes to dine with us at this table. Isn't that what Christmas is? Christ coming to us? So take this meal from this place to all who need it. Share food. Share hope. Share love to any who hunger for any of those things. Food, hope, or love. And Christ will be there. And it will be Christmas right then, because where love is, there is God also.